This is TNG here. So today I'm going to be showing you my own custom $500 console killer builds. That's right, I said builds because they're actually two different builds. One's Intel based and the other is AMD based. Now I did this because when I was trying to come up with my own console killer build, I couldn't really decide what I wanted more. The Intel Pentium G3258 or the AMD Athlon X4 860K. So instead of actually making a choice, I decided to go ahead and make them two separate builds. However, beyond the processor and the motherboard, the rest of the build is entirely the same as it had been before. So that's something to keep in mind. When I say has been before, of course, I mean that they're the same. So everything memory and below is the exact same in both of these builds. So anyway, I'm just going to go over everything in these builds. I'm using PCPartPicker.com to make the list, and honestly, I just love this website because it shows you everything you need to know. It makes sure everything's compatible with each other. It shows you the wattage of your build, and it shows you the total price, and it gets you the absolute best deal it can find on the internet at any given time, and it always updates the prices of everything. For example, this used to be $498, now apparently it's $501. Technically not within the $500 budget, I think we can let it slide. Anyway, so yeah, let's start with the Intel build here. And remember, I'm going to post these links in the description for both of these builds so you can look over them yourselves and see all the best deals you can get. So anyway, for the Intel build, as I said, I went with the Pentium G3258 3.2 GHz dual-core processor. So yeah, it's a dual-core processor, which normally I wouldn't recommend a dual-core processor with modern games, for modern game devices anyway, since most modern games tend to utilize those extra cores. However, the reason I do now, and the reason I went with the Intel build at all to begin with, is because of the great upgradability of the LGA 1150 socket type, which is what this processor uses. Because with that socket type, you have the options to eventually upgrade to various powerful, or at least more powerful, i5s and i7s, such as the 4690K and the 4790K. I actually have the 4690K in my current PC build, and I definitely highly recommend it. So yeah, if you start out with this processor, you could eventually work your way up to one of those. Anyway, yeah, and I've heard online that the Pentium G3258 produces great results in games, certainly for the $70 price tag. Alright, now the next item in this build is the Gigabyte GA Z97N Wi-Fi Mini ITX motherboard. And of course, as I said, it sports the LGA 1150 socket type, making for great upgradability. Now, if we look at the motherboard itself, it's basically just your standard mini ITX board. So you have your two RAM DIMM slots, 240 pin, and you have your PCIe Express or PCIe 3 times 16, or however you say that, for your graphics card or whatever else you want to put in there. Now, of course, being a gaming build, as we want to kill these consoles here, we have to put a graphics card in here, right? And then up here we have the built-in Wi-Fi, so that you can utilize those when you screw in the Wi-Fi antennas, and I assume that the board comes with its own Wi-Fi antennas. But yeah, I'm not sure how great the Wi-Fi is actually going to be with this board, and being that we only have one PCI Express slot, we're not really going to be able to add in your own Wi-Fi adapters, so yeah, might want to be careful about that. Might be good to have Ethernet as a backup plan if you were planning on relying solely on Wi-Fi. Anyway, the next part of our build is the G-Skill RIP, or actually, yeah, wait, let's go over the AMD build first before we continue on with the rest of it. So, at the brains of the AMD build is the Athlon X4 860K 3.7 GHz quad-core processor. So yeah, this is a quad-core processor, meaning it should technically pack more of a punch than the Intel Pentium, even though I've read online that the Pentium is more efficient, and, you know, apparently it does perform better in some games, but this quad-core processor should produce better results with games that utilize those extra cores. And so yeah, like I said for the Pentium, it won't produce the best gaming results, but for the price, the Athlon X4 860K should indeed make for a great console killer. Next up is the motherboard, which is essentially identical to the one in the Intel build, except this one sports the FM2 Plus socket, making for AMD compatibility. So if we look here, it looks almost identical, except the CPU socket, of course, is going to be a little different. But we still have those two RAM DIMM slots with 240 pins, and we still have PCI Express 3 for the graphics, and we still have the onboard LAN, so you can screw in your antennas there. So yeah, beyond the processor and the motherboard, the AMD build is essentially identical to the Intel build, and of course vice versa. So I'm just going to go through the rest of the Intel build here, and of course you can assume that the rest is the same for this, because it is. So, next up in our builds, we have the G.Skill Ripjaws X Series 8GB, DDR3, 1600 memory. So 1600 memory isn't the fastest you'll find, but honestly, it won't make much of a difference beyond 1600 because, I mean, it's RAM. Like, in games, you're really not going to notice a difference. And beyond that, yeah, like I said, it's RAM. It's got a flashy red design, pretty much everything you need with system memory, 8 gigs, especially for such a low-end console, or PC, is probably not, you're probably not going to need more than 8 gigs. Now, for the storage, we have, and I know this is going to seem like a strange choice, but we actually have a 1TB 3.5-inch hybrid internal hard drive, or otherwise known as an SSHD. Now, for those of you who don't know what an SSHD is, it's actually essentially just a standard hard disk drive, you know, but it has that extra 8GB SSD component inside for storing your most frequently used files and programs and boot files and all that stuff. So basically, you have a cheaper price point like the normal hard drives, but you have much faster boot times like SSDs. Now, it's not going to boot up quite as fast as an SSD would, but it'll come pretty close, and it'll certainly be a lot faster than a hard drive. Now, if you have the extra cash, I would recommend going a different way, where instead you might want to grab a 120 gig SSD and a terabyte HDD, put them together, and it's going to cost you about 100 to 150 bucks. So yeah, it's going to cost a little more for that setup, but I would definitely recommend that over the SSHD. But being that we're trying to keep within the $500 price tag, I think that this SSHD makes for a great alternative. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that if you're on a very strict budget. I've used SSHDs, they work great. So next up is our graphics card, arguably the most important part of our gaming build. And it is the EVGA GeForce GTX 750 Ti with 2 gigs of VRAM superclocked. So, here's what the card looks like. It is a graphics card. It should run all your games in 1080p with decent settings at decent frame rates. And it should definitely beat out the Xbox One and PS4's GPUs. And, well, not much beyond that. It's the video card. Moving on. So, oh yeah, and that's going to only run you about 130 bucks. So it's definitely a budget video card, but it'll definitely get the job done. So next is the Thermaltake Core V1 Mini ITX Tower. This is actually going to be our case, and I just really love this case because I love the design to begin with. I think it looks nice, it looks clean, simple. You have your front inputs on the side here, left side, with 2 USB, 2 audio inputs, power and reset buttons, everything you'd expect. And yeah, it's just a small form factor console-like case. As you can see in the top panel, you have a window so you can see through down and look what's going on inside of that newly built console you just put together. And then on the side, you have kind of grate-like windows, so I guess you can look in through there too. And then I believe the side panels are also user replaceable, so you can actually replace them with these Windows side panels if you really want that. Personally, I would be content with just the top because, I mean, the motherboard's facing upward, you can kind of tell, so that's where everything's going to be going on. And, oh yeah, my favorite part about that case is the price point. It's like 40 bucks. Ooh, that actually went up a little bit. It used to be a little little less than 40 bucks. That must be what put this price up. Anyway, yeah, it's still cheaper than pretty much any other mini ITX case out there. Any other decent one, anyway. So, yeah, that's the case. And then, last on the parts of our actual PC, at least our necessary parts of the PC, is our power supply. So it is the Corsair CX 430 watt 80 plus bronze certified semi-modular ATX PSU. And I personally have always trusted Corsairs power supplies. I think that they're efficient, they work well. I currently have a CX550M in my computer, and as it happens, this PSU is a CX430M, so it's essentially the same model, it's just lower wattage, and my current power supply is working great. And of course, it's semi-modular, which comes with its own benefits, especially since we're using a smaller form factor case. The less cables we have in there, the better. We can free up some room with the Corsair CX430 watt. And yeah, that is basically our entire PC build. All of this stuff is the actual computer. At the bottom, we just have a couple extras, which are pretty much optional. I just threw in two Antec 80mm fans. Yeah, I guess we'll look at them. Nothing special, just clear fans. You could pick your own 80mm fans. It's really just user preference, all aesthetics. God, I can never pronounce that word. But yeah, if we look into our case over here, you can tell by looking at the back. If you look in the back there, you can see two 80mm fan slots, so that's where you'd put the 80mm fans. And then in the front, there's a built-in 120mm fan. So with all those fans, your case will definitely be kept nice and cool. Anyway, that is my $500 budget build. Console killers, yeah. And as you can see, the the Intel one is $501 right now. AMD is $477, but these numbers are constantly changing. It could go up and down. I'm pretty sure it'll always stay around that $500 price point. And yeah, and then you can also see the wattage, 224 watts, 182 watts. Our 430 watt power supply will be more than enough, especially with its 80 plus bronze certified efficiency. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, favorite. I'll leave the links to these parts in the description. Thanks for watching. See ya. This is TNG signing out.